friends, and welcome to Pod Return to the Waking Sands. We are a Final Fantasy XIV companion podcast where we explore the lore and story of Hydaelyn and beyond. My name is Jen, and I'm joined by my co-host and researcher.
I'm Levi.
You're Levi.
I am.
Hello.
Hey, Jen. Today we are talking about the Postmoogle quests.
We're doing it.
What is a Postmoogle, Jen?
It is a Moogle that delivers post.
Yes, that is 100% accurate.
Nice.
More verbosely, though, Jen, the Postmoogle, this is a mechanism for a series of short stories about side characters that we become involved in through the role of letter carrier.
Correct.
Thank you. Not sure why that's so funny, but thank you.
You gave me, you finished saying that word and then, finished saying the thing. And then you looked at me with this face. It was very, expectant and self-congratulatory. And I felt I had to respond. So.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yep.
These quests, in terms of mechanics, these are just fetch quests and run around and talk to people quests. If you're expecting something else from a Moogle, a post-Moogle, or a mail carrier quest line, then I am sorry.
Yeah, fix your brain.
Fix your expectations. At any rate, though, there are a couple of speed bump type fights here whenever the story calls for it, but nothing in terms of actual mechanical depth will be in this period.
No.
These quests are entirely without padding. They are pure storytelling. There's no run around and talk to 5 people, whatever. Everything that you're doing is doing to move the story forward. So in that way, despite being pure fetch quests, they are also entirely meat if this is the type of meat that you are into.
Right.
It's a light meat.
It's pork.
Maybe a fish of some sort. Tilapia.
The other white meat.
Yes. Not beef, though.
Right.
That's for sure. The real payoff for this is the actual storytelling. If you're not here for the stories, then it's not worth your time. There are a couple cosmetic perks that will come out of this. You get a couple minions. You get, as the final reward, you get a nice hat. Mm-hmm. But in general, though, there's nothing that really gives you a big payoff. It's really about the journey. So if you're not here for that, then maybe don't spend your time doing it. You be the judge. You're your own person.
Correct.
But that said, the quality of the writing here is an overall very good, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. I think it's better on average than A Realm Reborn as a whole. It's just all in the guise of these very short stories.
Yes. It helps too that they're typically revealing things about characters we've come to know just through the course of questing and jobs and MSQing. So that's always interesting. You already have a little bit of skin in their game. And so if you enjoy feeling a little bit more invested in the world, then the Postmoogle series of quests is for you.
And over the course of this storyline, you will level up as a carrier.
It means nothing.
It means a lot, Jen.
Level up.
A higher level carrier gets better mail. At least more advanced mail.
Something, yeah.
So every time you do a delivery successfully, you gain a carrier level.
Every single time.
And there's a little cutscene.
It's like, level up! And then a question mark falls down from the sky and then turns it into an interrobang. And it goes all askew on the screen, and it's kind of wonky and silly.
A little whimsical touch.
Yes.
To tell us that it's not so serious.
Not so serious.
Except when it is.
Sometimes it's pretty serious.
That's the summary of the Postmoogle, Jen. Let's talk about this episode. There are a lot of deliveries in the Postmoogle series.
25.
Yes, 25 exactly. We have each picked our favorite 5 to talk about, and we have not consulted one another at Jen's insistence.
Insistence is putting it mildly.
Her passionate insistence.
So there was a bit of a, we're going to pull back the curtain here. a bit of a disagreement. Not a disagreement. Levi wanted, we were always going to choose our 5 favorites. But what Levi wanted me to do, or wanted us to do, is we're going to go through all the quests. I'm going to pick my 5 top ones, tell him what those are, and then if there were any that overlapped, he would pick new ones so that we didn't have the same 5 quote-unquote favorites. And I was like, well, then they're not our favorites, are they? So you're lying. So you chose your favorites. You were like, oh, it's embarrassing, or whatever it is, for us to have like the same ones. Well, he was afraid that we wouldn't have enough to talk about. I'm like, bro, we will talk forever about nothing. So don't even worry about that. And I was like, if you gotta choose your favorite because it's your favorite. You can't choose a favorite and then just because I choose the same one, you're like, oh, well, I'll choose a lesser favorite then because then it's not, by definition, your favorite. So, live on the recording right now, we're going to reveal which ones we chose. And if they match up at some point, I assumed that they would at least once. But we're going to see. I don't know. I have no idea.
Thank you, Jen, for that short story about us.
Yeah.
A little amuse-bouche for the Postmoogle stories.
A little postcard, if you will.
So, will you please take us into your first pick, Jen? Oh, I guess, wait. We got to talk about why we're doing this.
So
you're right.
So if you go to Mordona.
This is really weird. This appears in a pile
random.
Of side quests.
Completely fucking random. I actually couldn't, I had not a big pile of side quests, believe it or not. And you're like, Jen, you have to go, this is where you unlock the Postmoogles. And when I looked over the map, the NPC that had the quest actually had 2 quests. And the other quest superseded the Postmoogle quest. So if I was looking at all my yellow markers on a map, it wasn't popping up. And I was like, well, now what the fuck? Now what have I not done to unlock this friggin' thing? So I go find the person, which isn't very easy. And I realize that she's got 2. And the Postmoogle one is the second one, which is why it doesn't show up on the map. I was about to lose my shit.
Hardcore side questers only.
Correct.
In this series.
Correct. It's way off the beaten path.
So the person in question is Clinthota, who is complaining that she has received someone else's mail again. Those Postmoogles cannot tell Rogadan names apart.
And she's like, to be fair, they're kind of hard. We're not talking about fucking Hellsguard names.
No.
Yeah, it's not like Smooth Rock. It's Furfisfin Merskase.
Well, Jen, this mail is actually for her brother, Risflo Skamfraskin, in Limsa. Obviously, they're different people, so she asks us to go and drop it off. And she says to tell him that his sister would never dream of reading his mail, but he could do much better than some vapid tavern wench. Just saying.
Yeah, just totally reading your mail, bro.
But we head to Limsa and we find Risflo, who is a yellow jacket that hangs out near the Aetheryte Plaza. And we hand over that mail. And he launches into a very violent rant about Postmoogles and how they're so incompetent. One such Moogle just happens to be within earshot and appears to apologize. Side note, this deepens our long-running Moogle appearance mystery further, but the mystery will be uncovered by the end of this series. The truth behind the Moogle visibility. So stay tuned for that, if nothing else. Either way, though, he is shocked by the sudden appearance. He has never seen a Moogle before. This guy came out of nowhere. Seeing what a cute ball of fur this Postmoogle is, his rage abates. He's like, oh, no big deal.
Right. You know, a missed letter now and then is understandable, considering how the population has been exploding. And, you know, so he takes that into account, and the fact that this Moogle is extraordinarily apologetic and has affirmed that they will triple their efforts to be more accurate when delivering their mail. Because Risflo, knowing that his sister was getting his mail, he was like, maybe next time they could just deliver the mail to the Admiral herself. The consequences would be less dire. Yeah, she did seem a little overbearing.
We solved that conflict, though, and now us and this post-Moogle are going to have a huddle. The Moogle says, hey, about that, I could use some help over here. And seeing as we so expertly delivered that mail just now, maybe we would like a full-time job doing so. He will fast-track our hiring and waive the screening process as a special exception for us. We say yes, like we do.
Mm-hmm.
So we agree and achieve carrier level 1.
So when we confirm, he's like, are you in? You're gonna. It's like people trying to recruit people into the army. You'll travel to far-flung lands. You'll meet new people. You'll cultivate relationships. You'll stay up to date on the latest news. What's not to like? Are you in? And we're like, yeah, we're in. And then he takes, somehow, the animation here is great. He takes an authoritative stance, but it's in midair, which I thought was really impressive. And he tells us that he is the Moogle in charge of tutelage and training. And if we ever see him hovering in this spot in the future, that means he has letters for us. He has letters that he can't be bought, has deemed suitable for our training. So, great. Let's start.
And now, Jen, please tell us about your first choice of letter.
Okay. Do we want to go in order?
I did not do mine in their chronological order in the interest of, I guess, mixing up the content a bit. But
Fair.
You do you, Jen.
Okay. So let me just do a little hoobity-doo here. I can start with the Momodi one.
Sure. So you've got a letter for Momodi.
All right. So this quest is called Dream On, and this involves Mommy Momodi. So a letter has just come in for, and we got a lot of these things to talk about. So I'm gonna keep it pretty zoomed out as much as Jen can zoom out. I will. So a letter has just come in for Momodi of the Quicksand. Hooray! But there's neither a return address nor a sender's name on the envelope. The plot thickens. So we go to the Quicksand and hand Momodi her letter, and she's like, "Oh hey, how's it going? Apparently you're delivering mail. Cool." So she opens the letter and she reads it, and it's some saccharine lovey-dovey garbage poem where she's like, "Ew, this is gross." And it's from a secret admirer, and it's not very secret because as soon as she's done reading it, bro walks up and he's like, "It was for me." And she's like, "How many times do I have to tell you I'm not interested?"
Jen, tell us about bro.
Well, his name is Thomas. He's one of the most eligible bachelors in Ul'dah. He comes from a very wealthy family, don't they all? And he's obsessed. He's obsessed with Momodi.
How does he look?
Oh, he's a young dude. He's got ash blonde short hair, and he's wearing the standard Ul'dah fancy long vest thing that they all wear. And
also, he is a Eorzea, not a Lala. We get a couple of tall guys.
I don't see race, so I don't know. I just didn't even think about it.
Here, though, we have 2 quests in the series which have some tall folk into some Lalas.
Yeah, it's Lala and non-Lala dynamics. Yes, twice in this series, actually.
That's all. Carry on.
Oh, that's one of my other ones, actually.
Well, look at that. I know what Jin's into.
Well, I am one. So I think we're pretty hot. So this man's name is Thomas. I feel like I said that already.
Correct.
She's not very happy to see him. She's not interested. And he won't hear it. He can't hear it. I'm gonna get you someday, Momodi. And for some reason, also, I consider Momodi, okay, so she's probably older. And in this game, that means she's in her early 30s. So Thomas has to be 17, right? For some reason, I just assume that he's quite a bit younger than she is.
He feels young. I agree there.
Yeah. Well,
I wouldn't say 17, but
he's lovesick, and he's obviously lacking perspective and doesn't know how to take a fucking hint.
Yes.
Okay. So that's him. He doesn't seem he's not creepy about it, but he's obsessed. He's a lovesick child. And he's like, "But come on." And but you've been wearing this hairpin for forever, and some guy made you that hairpin, and you won't go a day without wearing it. Like, who the fuck is that guy? I'm way better than that guy, hairpin guy. And she's like, God, fucking dude. Well, yes, a dude made this for me a really long time ago, but I'm not, like, in love with him. I was never in love with him. It's not a big deal. It doesn't mean you think it does. And so, but he's not hearing it. So now he's like, it's me versus the guy that made the hairpin. And we have to go figure out who that guy was, if he's even, like, around. And Thomas has to go find him and do, like, a little one-upping, a little contrast and compare to see who's the better man. So the guy who made the piece, his name is Momoroto. And years and years and years ago, he worked as a goldsmith, and he was really good at it. And he earned after some time, he earned one hell of a commission, the kind of commission that will make you, like, an everyday, like, a household name. And, this was a commission for the Sultana herself. And Momodi, who was, I don't think they were, like, romantically entangled, but she was very close to this guy. And when he got this commission, she was like, oh my God, this is it, dude. The whole rest of your life hinges on this commission. Once you turn this in, people will know you far and away, and they're going to come from all over the realm. And, like, the whole rest of your life hinges upon this moment. And one day, while he was working on this thing for the Sultana, he stood up from his chair and walked out, abandoned it entirely, and decided to go fishing for the rest of his life. And did they know that he went fishing? I don't remember. He just walked off the job.
Yeah.
And that's it. He just went away.
What we do is we go to the Goldsmiths Guild to ask about him, and they tell us that he is now a fisherman or whatever.
Yeah,
or that he hangs out.
He hangs out in the Crescent. Was it Crescent Cove?
Sure.
Yeah.
That village that is
the little fishing village
between Horizon and Vesper Bay.
Yeah, like the little ruins there.
Yep.
There's ruins everywhere. What am I talking about? So we go out to Crescent Cove, and Thomas is like, all right, I'm going to confront this dude, and I'm going to be clearly the winner because, like, I'm, I don't know, employed, and I have ambition, and I didn't walk off my job to go fishing for the rest of my life. And dude is he's sitting on the dock, and he's fishing, and he seems like totally content. And obviously he's got the benefit of some years behind him. And this young upstart walks up, and he's like, hey, bro, like, what's up with you? You made this hairpin from Momodi. You think you're better than me? And this guy's like, no, I just, the pressure of it became way too much. And you start to kind of think, like, what is it all about? And frankly, I'm not in this life to power through and make as much money as I can and become famous. I'm looking for, like, some simpler pleasures. And this is where I have found it, in a tiny little fishing village on a rotting, creaking pier, and everything is awesome. And so Thomas judges him pretty harshly for this whole thing. He's like, well, I win the contest, right on. And he walks away, and we stay in there and chat with Momoroto for a little bit. And he's like, yeah, I don't know, really what he and Momodi had back in the day, but I made her this hairpin, and it's gorgeous. And when he got the commission, he couldn't handle it anymore. And that was that. And he had some like wise words for us. So we go back and we tell Momodi, like, we saw the dude and he's fishing and everything is great. And so Thomas, he's in front of Momodi, and he's admonishing her for ever having a relationship, whatever that relationship was, with someone who totally lacked in ambition. He just, she's been pining. Her just wearing the hairpin was such a threat to him that he considered it like her pining after this dude after however many years. And she's got to be like, there's no pining. The hairpin means something to me that you couldn't possibly fucking understand. So she told us kind of her part about it, with the benefit of hindsight. She understands now that her pushing and her what she thought was encouraging at the time was actually just adding to his feeling of like, this is too much. She was adding to that pressure for him and maybe hastened his burnout. And she understands now that, her place is as the proprietress of the quicksand and, fostering initiates into the guild is helping them when they know what their dream is, not trying to talk them into what their dream is, but rather helping them achieve it for themselves. So the strength and the ambition and the commitment to pursue a dream comes from within. And that is what the hairpin represents for her, because it meant so much. She can, what it meant in the moment and what it means now with however many years since, adding to her interpretation of what all of this meant to her. And she learned all of these things from Momoroto, and basically, yes. I think that took about 18 minutes, didn't I say?
You did, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I recommend that you summarize more.
I cannot.
I believe in you, Jen. I believe in you like Momodi believes in adventurers.
Don't pressure me. Anyway, yeah. So that was one of mine.
Okay. This one has caused some strong emotions in you, Jen.
Uh-oh.
And when you texted me saying, this is gross, I was like, it's this one.
Oh, no.
And the reason why I want to talk about it, Jen, is because it is phenomenal that this thing exists in this game.
An incredible outlier.
Yes. This makes me feel like the Postmoogle stories got little to no supervision. Sure, write something and we'll put it in the game.
Looks good.
There are so many things in A Realm Reborn where the style and the contents don't mesh with the game as a whole. Even some things don't match up with itself with A Realm Reborn. It's like the Wild West of this game, pretty much. And this thing is so skewed
Shocking.
In one direction. I just had to talk about it, Jen.
Shocking. Okay.
So without further preamble...
Okay, I just have to say...
With more preamble from Jen.
Yeah. This quest, it reminds me of the golden age of animated Disney films. In that, a lot of them featured not so subliminal sexual references. Whether that be in the box cover art, a la Little Mermaid, or in The Lion King when... I think it's Mufasa. He flops down on a cliff and some particulates float up into the air and they form the word sex. And then there's a moment in Aladdin where somebody can be heard saying, "Princess, take off your clothes." And there's something I think with the Beauty and the Beast too. But it's like that. To find something like that in something that is otherwise pretty fucking wholesome. I could hardly read this shit. It was so egregious.
This begins with a delivery sent by the sylphs to the, quote, Long One, also known as Hunbergt Longhaft. Coming in hot here, Jen.
This is where we're going. Oh, the quest name is Stroking the Haft.
Correct. The story here is about a brass blade captain, Hunbergt, who is known to be one of the most charismatic leaders in the realm, and all of the people in his squadron are ladies. This story begins with innuendo, and my first impression of it was going to be kind of like tee-hee, we're talking about blades and hafts, but it could also mean sex stuff. But no, the storytelling goes through the looking glass, and it just becomes straight up talking about banging.
It's over. Totally over.
So we find our guy in the old Weavers Guild, and we deliver our package. It contains silks. Captain Longhaft, who is a Highlander, immediately embroils us in his bullshit by assuming we want to know all about his fashion choices. So he explains to us why he wants to wear these silks. Suppose that you are the commander of a formidable unit, one akin to a great machine. Now suppose this same unit was somehow constrained, forced to do battle in cramped quarters. Would your unit be able to realize its full potential in such unfavorable conditions? Talking about your unit, Jen.
Ah, yes, my unit. Mm-hmm.
Verily not. Only when given room to breathe will the puissant unit swell and expand over the battlefield, and then, upon reaching the full extent of its power, thrust forth and penetrate your opponent's defense. At this point, I'm like, okay, I get it. We're going to be having some fun with words here.
Tee-hee.
And I kind of turn my brain off for a bit because it's going to be more of the same. But no. The captain now ends up roping us into tracking down his troops, a pair of Mikote siblings that are off shopping for enhancements for their captain. These are some jewelry and potions that enhance one's vigor and stamina, even though the captain does not usually like to use performance-enhancing supplements. So again, it's just more innuendo, whatever. But now things begin to intensify. Each sister is insistent that she outgift the other sister. The thought of them winning the captain's favor and receiving his exclusive attention is too much to bear. This illusion begins to push past the coy innuendo we've seen so far, but it gets more explicit still. One sister remarks that she must deliver her gift before the other does, lest she be the one invited to work the lever tonight. We're just talking about handjobs, I think.
You think?
After I find the sisters and advise them on their gift buying, they return to the captain and begin to fight over whose gift is better. But he assures them that he likes them both equally and will not accept any sort of artificial enhancement. Now, he says, check out these sweet new clothes I had made.
This is where it starts to get weird.
Yes. So he now begins to try on some outfits. Elamoy Ruby Eyes says, that broad chest bursting forth, those bulging biceps. My captain, this garment shows you for the god of virility that you are.
Jesus.
My only regret is that I cannot quite see under the belt.
Ugh.
Then he puts on a reindeer costume.
Well, there's like 3 outfits, right?
Correct.
That are apparently made in the span of 30 minutes.
Sure.
So he's got the first one, which is like a nice patrician's sort of outfit that we've seen a million times. The second one is that the fancy Uldon vest cloak thing. And then we get the fucking reindeer costume.
The reindeer costume goes on. He declares, behold, did you know that this furred snow creature is legendary for its stamina and the sheer size of its manhood?
There it is. We're just talking about it
quote,
now.
yes.
I'm going to dress up like a reindeer because they got big ding-dongs.
Now tell me, ladies, what would you like for Starlight this year?
Tee-hee.
You, my captain, nothing but you.
The fact that they're sisters also makes this so much worse.
It's more fucked up than that, Jen.
No, it's more fucked up than that. It keeps getting more fucked up.
So they now rush off on their next mission, and Hunbert, he assumes that we want to know more about this shit, so he now tells us unbidden.
And also the music changes to that like sensitive like la 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 music. Well, this is going to be heartwarming for some reason.
He now explains to us that his unit freed them from slavery when they were children. But because the Brass Blades have no social support system, they would not care for these liberated children, and so they became street urchins where they got tough. And then, years later, they came back to the captain, all hardened from the streets, as, quote, woman grown, strong, and beautiful.
Ugh.
That they know how to properly sheath my blade is an extra benefit, albeit a most welcome one. The end. So, again, he met them when they were children, and now they're
and he was like, I would have adopted them, alas. I'll let them learn some things. Anyway, yeah, it's an unfortunate story.
What the fuck, Jen?
This is not... It's not friendly for...
anyone.
Yeah, and if you're ace, stay clear of that particular quest. It is uncomfortable. So
what's next, Jen?
That was a good one. Okay, so one of my other ones, I don't know why I thought this was just really fun. This is called Dual Personalities. We're thrust into the middle of an ongoing, I don't know, tit for tat sort of relationship between these two dudes. We have a letter from Fiebras the Dull to Anselm. Larkscall is his name. And he sends a letter saying, like, hey, man, we should fight to the death, you know? And the deputy Postmoogle is like, these guys are like the most barnacle-brained, pirate-ass, dumb fucks ever. So I guess, here, go present the letter. So we're gonna go take the letter to Anselm. And he's hanging out by the docks with his pirate bros, whatever. And they're singing a little song, a little piratey song. We are the arty pirates. We sail the stormy seas with bird muck on our shoulders and woodworm on our knees. And we're like, hey, man, you got a letter. And he's like, what? Reads it and he's like, the fuck is this? He quotes from the letter. I've found myself some new women. What make that ale wench look like a puddle of puke? You can keep her for all I care. You and her was made for each other. And so Anselm curses his bro. I'm assuming they're bros. Fiebras calls him a blowhard bastard, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I'm not going to take that line down. I'm going to defend my ale wench to the death. How dare you call her a pile of puke? All right, so I'm going to go confront Fiebras, he says. And for this, I'm going to need an arbiter, and that's going to be you, obviously. And he's like, do you think you're up for the task? I mean, yes, we've seen some shit. I saw a dude in a reindeer costume recently, so he's gonna go to the Drowning Wench and meet Fiebras and start this whole thing and settle the score, whatever the fuck it is. So we go down to the Drowning Wench, and they're already like face to face. They're like posturing with one another. And he's like, oh, you got here just in time. And any more of this contemptible sneak's shite, and I gutted him like the minnow he is. Okay, we got it. So Fiebras is like, hey, dude, my name's Fiebras. They call me the Dull, but I'm not actually dull. I'm real smart. So basically, the conflict is down to, like, who has, like, the hotter crush. So Fiebras is like, I'm going to go show you the hot crush that basically makes your quote-unquote ale wench a pile of puke. So we go down to Bulwark Hall, and we're, like, sneaking around, looking, like, peering around corners like creeps. And the Fiebras is like, do you see them? They're like they're fucking angels. And there's the two Mikote twins that are hanging out in Bulwark Hall that are like the concierge, right? It's for like newcomers. Like, oh, the Admiral's quarters are over here. And he's like, man, they're so beautiful. Wrap your peepers around the Mikote twins and tell me there ain't no gods. So Fiebras was in like a storm and his ship crashed or whatever, and these two Mikote girls were there and nursed him back to health. And he's like, man, so that's why he's like, you know what? So that was during the calamity. 5 years later, he sees them here, and he's like, staring at him from afar. Oh my God! One of them walks up to him, and they're like, hey, how have you been? And he's like, oh my God, they remember me, and he's like flying high on this brief little interaction. And Fiebras is like, hey, arbiter, us, go talk to them, see how fucking magical and angelic they are. So we go talk to them. And they basically say, like, we look like we're basically tour guides, but we're actually fully fledged yellow jackets. And we've noticed this dude hanging around being suspicious. And so we thought it would be best to kind of approach him and engage in a little bit of an interrogation of sorts to make sure that we keep him on the up and up and, I don't know, maybe de-escalate whatever it is that he's plotting. So we go back to him and tell him, like, bro, they think you're like a spy and a creep. And he's like, God damn it. So that's a bummer. He's like, well, I thought, he's like, they weren't flirting with me. They were questioning me. And we're like, yeah. And Anselm thinks this is hilarious. Like, you dumb asshole. Now it's my turn. We're going to go see the girl of my dreams, and you're going to be jealous. And obviously I'm going to win this whole contest. So we go to the Fisherman's Guild, and I'm like, oh no. We sneak up, and I'm like, please don't let it be Sisypho, but also, please let it be Sisypho. Spoilers, it's Sisypo. So Anselm, we're doing the same thing. We're like crouched behind a corner and we're staring creepily. And Anselm was like, there she is.
Sisypo is
paragon of womankind.
Sisypo is the Lalafell that is like the
assistant guildmaster.
/ rival to
Wabalago.
To the fisherman's guildmaster.
So Wabalago is the actual guildmaster, but she's the acting guildmaster because she actually shows up and works. So anyway, so here we look at it's Sisypo, not Sisypo. Sisypo, I'm sorry, Sisypo. A quote-unquote bleeding paragon of womankind, per Anselm. And he says, back in me pirating days, because again, pirating is not legal anymore. The captain sent me to the markets here to fence our ill-gotten gains. Thing is, none of these crooked dealers would give me a fair coin for the loot. Well, me blood boiled over. Foaming at the mouth I was, and hurling oaths like the broadside of a galleon. That's when Sisypo stepped in. Men twice her size are cowering in fear, but she squares right up to me, a raging pirate in full cry. Don't be a baby, she says. Get a grip, she says. Fair shook me to the core, it did. And then he's like, well, if you don't believe me, go see for yourself. Walk up to Sisypo and, you're going to be a changed woman after that. So we walk up, we're like, hello. We're well acquainted. She's like, hey, what's up, Otis? Have you caught any more marlins lately? Which is great because if you've done all of the all up to level 50 of the fisherman quests, you've caught that giant marlin. So she references that, which is great. And she's like, wait, Anselm sent you? What the fuck is that drunkard up to anymore? So we tell her the story and she thinks it's hilarious. And she says, you tell him from me that he's got everything all confused. As much as I'm pleased to be put on a pedestal, there's no way of judging when it comes to matters of taste. One man's marlin is another man's mud skipper. And so we, basically this is what she should be telling Anselm to his face and not ours, but whatever. We're going to pass on the message. And we tell him what Sisypo told us. And she's like, wow, isn't she amazing? That's the wisest shit I've ever heard in my life. That's it. Sisypo beats them twins, hands down. So Fiebros, after seeing all of this, he's like, he's fed up. It's time for us, the Arbiter, to make a decision. Okay, who wins? Is it the twins or is it Sisypo? And we're standing there, just about to be pressured into making some kind of choice, when all of a sudden we hear some crass lady pirate noises. Out of me way, scrags, or you'll feel me jackboot on your scrawny necks. This ain't no place for idle chit-chat.
That's pretty good, Jen.
Thanks. Get down the market with the other gossiping fishwives. And Anselm and Fiebros are in unison. Captain Roswen! I love her. And so she walks up and she understands the conflict's going on and she's like, this is real stupid, you guys. You need to be, if you're real pirates, you drink, you wench, you brawl. You're not going to let some arbiter choose this for you. You fucking fight it out like real pirates.
Captain Roswin is the captain of the Lady Pirates group. They hang out in that other restaurant off the Aft Castle.
Yes, and she has a secret hella crush on Carvalane, and she will deny it until she dies, but it's true.
Well, speaking of,
Carvalane walks up now and witnesses this thing, and he's like, you know what? The only thing a boorish harridan like her, speaking about Roswin, see, they protest too much. They both should just fuck already. The only thing a boorish harridan like her would give you is a nice collection of lumps to decorate those thick skulls of yours. I mean, probably yes. He's like, so Anselm is like, what the hell, Roswin? Carvalane? It's like a fucking captain's convention up in here, which is hilarious. And so, Carvalane and Roswin have like a little thing, and like, we get it, y'all are in love, just admit it.
They start to head off. We got Roswin leaving first, then Carvalane afterwards. And then this pair of pirates, our two buddies here, they're like, oh, I see what's going on. You got a little rendezvous happening over there. And they get super jealous. And of course, The two pirates, Roswin and Carverlane, deny it up and down, but the little guys,
gross cooties.
Yes, will not be convinced otherwise. We got 3 people who know now, us and these 2. At any rate, though, captains leave, and these 2 pirates, they're like, they're right, though. We gotta have it out. So they retire to go have their fist fight over who's got the most attractive woman and who gets the puke pile ale winch that kicked off this whole mess.
Right. It's a lost cause trying to chase after the quote unquote perfect woman, Because as soon as Roswin walked away, they were both like, wow, she's amazing. So they got, new crush, whatever. So they just basically, they go through this whole thing. And they're fighting it out. They're at odds. But at the end of the day, they're like, you know what, bro, I'm a pirate. You're a pirate. Let's be pirate friends. And they both hook arms and skip off into the distance, singing their little shanty, and everything is great.
Well, Jen, I have a story for you about Wawalago.
Is that your favorite?
Another fishtail. It is one of the top ones for me.
It was... I liked it too. This is like the first time... Okay, no, you go. Just tell it.
Thanks, Jen.
Because I want to know why you thought it was nice.
Well, we have a missive here for Wawalago from his old mate Roro Jaru, who is a trinket trader from Ul'dah, who supplies a certain something that supports and strengthens seafood stocks. And the letter says that this person, this Roro Jaru, has a prized possession that he will trade in exchange for a rare catch. But business must be bad if he's bartering his best brass for a bass.
Oh, that's right. Wawalago does the alliteration thing.
So the summary here is that Roro Jaru, who is a formerly wealthy trader, lost his fortune in the calamity, and he's been trying to make it back, but every single venture is failing. He now has this last-ditch effort here that he's brought to Wawalago, and he wants Wawalago to help get him back into the money. We get Wawalago's reply in letter form and go to meet Roro Jaru, who has just arrived on the ferry docks over by the Arcanists Guild.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we give him the reply, and he ropes us into carrying this big, clunky crate for him. Roro Jaru explains to us that his shot at his wealth at his comeback is he knows a rich eccentric that loves to collect rare fish. And who better than Wawalago at reeling in rare fish? Well, certain warriors of light, but that's beside the point. Roro Jaru will hand over his prized possession to Wawalago in exchange for this catch. This possession is in this here trunk. So there's the pitch. Now, Roro heads on ahead while we haul this crate behind him to this fishing spot in Lower Lanosha. He arrives before us. We're presumably slowed down by this big, heavy trunk, and there's an exchange happening between Wawalago and Roro Jaru.
Wawa and Roro.
Yeah, so Wawalago refuses to make a single cast until he sees the goods, until he sees what he's going to be paid, so he has made Roro cast a line himself. And Roro is sitting there on the beach complaining about getting no bites when we arrive with the crate. Wawalago pops open the box for himself, and he exclaims over what's inside. Blinking barnacles. It's beautiful. See it shine and shimmer like the silvery scales of a sea serpent. The fish'll flock to bask in the brilliance of a natty knick-knack like this.
Mm-hmm.
Fine, he says, I'll fetch your fish for you. But before he will, Roro Jaru, you have to catch a fish first. Any fish. But you have to do it before this here adventurer brings me one.
It's a race.
Roro is skeptical. He's had no bites so far. There's no fish in this cursed ocean. But Wawalago tells him to clear his conscience of all those money-making machinations and mellow your mind. Then the buggers will bite. And he leaves us to it. So we have to catch and deliver a Lominson sardine.
Anchovy.
Same difference.
Wow. Yes. Tell that to Stardew Valley, okay?
I will. We can either go and buy it from a fishmonger or fish it up. I had the bait on hand, so I chose just to fish it. First catch, Got it, no problem.
Did you fish it like right there?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I didn't have the bait because I only did ocean fishing and that doesn't work. So I had to go to Moraby Dry Box. Dry Box? Dry Docks.
That's what she said.
But, oh shit. Well, I mean, it is after that last Longhaft quest, am I right?
Nice, yes.
So I bought just like a bunch of like, I don't know, goby balls or whatever, just ocean fish, saltwater bait, low level, because a little mince anchovy is like a level 1 fish. And I go back to where Roro is and I cast my line because it seems canonical for the quest to do it there. And I caught literally everything else but an anchovy.
Did you check your fishing log first, Jen?
No.
Because that will tell you the bait to use.
I was like, fuck it. It'll be a simple bait.
It is
I don't care.
a simple bait. You get some from the fishing quest. It is a lugworm.
I bought
which
goby balls.
I kept in my saddlebag, Jen.
See, I checked my saddlebag. I didn't have any bait. I have a whole retainer that carries nothing but my bait. I was like, I'm not going to go to my retainer to get my bait.
That does not help you in a fishing emergency, Jen.
It didn't. I got nothing, so I just had to go to the fishmonger at the High Line and buy it.
Anyway, I caught the fish, cannon style.
Sorry, I went to the market board first. I don't know why, and nobody was selling them.
Wow. Fucked up.
So go to the High Line, buy a bunch of lemons and anchovies for 7 gil a piece, and then, I don't know, sell them on the market board, at least on Excalibur, for 1 billion gil. No one is selling them.
For 1 billion.
For 1 billion. Maybe like 1,000.
Anyway, Jen, I catch the fish and I hand it over, and Roro has caught nothing. He complains he's going to be broke for life. He failed this final chance he had. He's ruined.
He's reeking of desperation.
But asks Wawalago, how did that fishing feel? And it was wonderful. For a minute there, I really felt like I was one with the ocean. All of my worries just washed away. But a fat lot of good it did me. I didn't catch a bleeding thing. Wawalago responds, your financial frettings might have been mildly misplaced, but you've been a trader for far too long to fully free your feelings from the constant contemplation of coin. That's why the fish didn't bite. And now Wawalago casts a line. In just a moment, there's a bite, and he reels in a whopping saltwater catfish, thought to be extinct, and he just leaves it flopping on the shore. He begins to walk away cool guy style.
Mm-hmm.
He says, take it, Rorojaru. Consider it a prize for your persistence. Do with it what you will. But Roro wonders, don't you want my prize, my trade? The star-spangled subligar? Nah, says Wawa. I've got hundreds of them.
I'm sure he does.
Just remember, don't drag yourself down brooding over business. Free your mind from the fretting over your fortune and your future and try to think like a fish. He leaves now, and Roro thinks to himself, if only I could live as he does. I've had my fill of dealing with crooks and swindlers. It's time I've made a change. And he tosses the fish back in the ocean.
Gasp.
It's time for a fresh start as a fisher. Oh, and here you go, he says to us, bestowing upon us his treasure. Our very own star-spangled subligar.
Hell yeah.
He says, I never knew it before, but if I'm to learn to live like a fish and to set myself free, I need no supporter but Wawalago. The end.
Okay, so one of my other favorites was the Hazy Professor.
Go on.
I'm guessing that wasn't also one of yours?
No.
Okay, great.
It just re-traumatized me.
I think that's why I picked it.
Great. Thanks, Jen.
So, this one, we have a bundle of letters, 3 to be exact, for our friend, Professor Lambertain. We're just going to call him Lambertain. I am sorry. So, remember him when we were doing the Howling Eye mission way back in the early bits of the MSQ, when we had to go fight Garuda, and we needed to find a way to get into the Howling Eye, so we needed, not wind aspected? We needed ice aspected crystal, right? To combat the wind.
Possibly.
Something like that.
Or earth. I don't know.
No, it was definitely, I think it was ice.
Sure.
But we had to go talk to this dude who hangs out in Camp Drybone, who is like the #1 scholar on corrupted crystal and shit like that. and how you can change its aspect, whatever. So back when we did that, he led us on like a fucking wild goose chase, like 3 different times. He's like, oh yeah, go to the burning wall, get some corrupted crystal there. And we bring it back. He's like, no, this is fire. You need ice. And then he sends us to Aleport, and we talk to Sienna, and she's like, oh yeah, you go to the Isles of Umbra, get some corrupted crystal there. And we bring it back. She's like, no, this is Earth. This is what you need. And now we're fed up. And then at last we go to the 3rd pupil who's in Gridania, and he's like, go to get this corrupted crystal. We bring it back, and he's like, this is also Earth. Just kidding. It's ice. You're fine. Anyway, so this is that professor. So we deliver the 3 letters, one from each of his pupils that we just talked about. And they are all confirming their attendance at his biannual symposium on the stuff that all of them are studying. And he's very excited to gather again with the only other people in the realm who share his passion for corrupted crystals, all 3 of them. So to prep for the event, which is being held like right across the way in Camp Draybone, he gives us a bunch of flowers to help decorate the space. So we go and we put the flowers on the table, and it's looking real nice. And the professor shows up, and he's like, okay. And now we wait for the students to show up, and the symposium will begin. And we wait, and we wait, and we wait. And at long last, the professor wonders, gosh, I wonder what's holding up all them students. And he's like, he's kicking rocks, and the poor man. He decides to cancel the symposium based on everybody's tardiness, and he asks us to go like around the camp just to see if we see them. Are they on their way? Are they hurt or something? And he's like, I'm gonna go hang out in my chambers. Let me know if you hear from them. And he's clearly like a little heartbroken that nobody showed up. And I feel heartbroken for him, the poor man. So we go outside of Camp Drybone. We walk around outside and kind of hang out on the paths out there. And there's nothing. There's nobody showing up. It's not happening, dude. So we go back and we tell him like, I don't see anybody, man. I'm so sorry. But all of a sudden he realizes, fuck, I left my books, my brand new publication, my 4-volume book on the properties of aspect conversion. I left them in the tavern. Oh, God, I'm so scatterbrained. So we go back to the tavern to get the books to make sure, who's going to fucking steal these books? But we go back to get them. And while we're there, the students show up, lo and behold. All 3 of them, all together. And we're like, hey, guys, y'all are late for the symposium, which has been canceled, by the way. And they're all like, no, that's dumb. The symposium's actually tomorrow. And they're like, yeah, it's tomorrow. I don't know what he's freaking out about. Well, I mean, okay, he's a little scatterbrained. And we're like, yeah, I got that. I got that he's a little scatterbrained. So we're talking to the students, and they're like, you know what? We feel so bad for our professor. We should get him a gift to show our appreciation and, hopefully make him feel better after this whole he thought the symposium was canceled thing. So literally what we go do is they all agree that getting him a whole bunch of corrupted crystal is going to be the absolute gift of choice. So what that means is Hahasako, one of the pupils that we dealt with before at Highbridge, he's going to give us a sledgehammer and a warded pot, just like last time. And we're going to go onto the burning wall, just like last time. And we're going to take that sledgehammer and chunk off a pristine piece of corrupted crystal and put it in the warded pot and bring it back to Professor Lambertain, just like last time. I'm like, beat for beat, same shit. So we do that. We bring it back. The urn, the fucking pot with the corrupted crystal in it, it's as big as me, literally. I don't know how I carried it back. Magic. So now there's this huge pot, and that's when the professor walks in, and he's like, how long does it take you to pick up a bunch of books? Wait, what do you guys do? Hello, students. Oh my God, you guys missed the symposium. And they're like, no, it's tomorrow. And he's like, God damn it. You're right. It is tomorrow. so then they're like, well, we got you this thing of corrupted crystal because thank you, 1, for supporting us, and 2, congratulations on your publication. You just published this 4-volume tome, the properties of aspect conversion. And he's like, that brings me to the gift I got for you all. Each of us will have one of the volumes so that when we all come back together, we have a complete set, symbolism. And he proposes that they meet 4 times a year instead of twice. He'd like to read their papers more often and just be in touch. And like the man seems lonely, but like it's his research and the stuff that he's doing with the crystals, like that's his whole fucking life. And he is bestowing it upon the next generation, and it's super, super important to him. And so it's just basically we have this little gang of nerdlings, and now they're all living happily ever after. And that's all.
Nice. Midway through our deliveries, we get a meta plot update. There's a side bit where Arun Sinha and Raya O. Sinha are suspicious of our managing Moogle delegating his deliveries. So they lay a trap for him by staging a fake delivery that he has to handle personally. When he shows up, they confront him about being delinquent, but it turns out that his wings were injured in a tragic windmill accident. He ran into one because he doesn't know what they are. So he never saw such a thing in Gardania. He doesn't want to get fired, so he begs with them to keep him on, and they say yes, because you love being a Postmoogle. And we volunteer to keep on delivering until he gets his wings back in working order. I mean, I think that him not idling with that giant bag might help him heal better.
Oh my God. I just always just like hanging from the one shoulder.
Yes.
Their shit is so crooked.
Because the idle animation for the Postmoogle, it's this little Moogle guy in a huge sack over his shoulder that is as big as he is. And he flaps up with it, and then it pulls him back down.
It is not ergonomic at all.
It is not ergonomic.
So no wonder.
No wonder.
You have to be in peak physical condition to manage this whole thing.
Exactly.
And he was not. I have to say, though, that when we do this quest, and the Seed Seers are like, something's wrong. I can sense something's wrong. The Deputy Postmoogle isn't here. And we go to find him, and he's lying, like, unconscious in the middle of the road. Like, I was like, no, little buddy, no. His little wings just couldn't take it anymore. Felt so bad. Poor little guy.
Well, we are here to help him with minimal pay.
Maybe none pay. We break even on the teleportation costs.
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah. If that.
Anyway, Jen, my next entry caught me off guard. So I would say, on the whole, the majority of these deliveries are trite, and they are on the feel-good side.
Totally.
Even the ones that have some conflict, you kind of know it's going to all work out in the end, happily ever after, etc.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But, Jen, this one starts off simple enough, but I was quickly drawn in, and it takes a very dark turn. We begin with us giving a package to a Mao Lizzie.
Oh, is this the sister one?
She is a Keeper of the Moon street vendor that sells at the ferry landing in East Shroud. So she opens our package and finds nothing but money inside it. Nothing but cold gil. Damn you, Eorzea. We're not sure why she's mad about receiving money in the mail, so she explains that her sister Eorzea Lizzie ran away from home when Mao was a child and their mother was severely ill. But then money began to show up in the mail. With it, she could buy medicine for her mother. It's implied it was not enough to save her, so then the money went to cover funeral expenses. The writing in this story is verging on poetic. Quote, "Mother ails no more. I was by her side. Eorzea's Gil bought her tea of silver vine, and mine a soft, clean bed and a fine troop of mourning women."
I remember reading that too. She's like, "Mother ails no more. I was by her side."
All of the quest dialogue is like this. So Mao is fed up with her sister's cold donations, and she has this adventurer / letter carrier here. So she asks us to look for her sister and to give her a letter. She cannot ask the wood whalers for some reason. That is a plot point, not sarcasm. She gives us this letter, and she notes that Eorzea has this collar that is similar to her own. It's like a little ribbon heart thing affixed to it.
Mm-hmm.
We head to South Shroud and fight some curl claw poachers. Then we sight a pair that is putting down a wood whaler. One of them is a male Mikote dressed in a pretty eccentric outfit. It's got like little curl fur adornments on it.
It's almost garish.
Almost garish.
Yeah.
But he is with a female Mikote wearing a wooden mask. And she is wearing a collar with a heart-shaped ribbon. She speaks. Die wailing, little Lancer. We recognize no laws, neither of men nor elementals. What we want, we take. That is freedom. That is our way. Then they see me. The cat boy tells the woman to deal with me, then he leaves. And so she approaches, but I intercept her with a letter. Its contents are distressing to Eorzea. She explains that she is not allowed to have connections outside of the curl claws. So she asks me to relay to her sister the events that got her so far away from home. She explains that she went to work as a prostitute to provide money for their family until she was busted by a wood whaler, and in a panic, she killed the whaler. Quote, a whaler caught me at my trade. Pink-cheeked little miss. All she saw was a thieving strumpet to drag before the hearers. So I took the roses from her cheeks, made them bloom on her fine green doublet. She fled the city and was taken in by the curl claws, whose initiation rite is to kill a wood whaler anyway. Their leader, the king, took her in, and my beauty pleases his highness. A man is a man, in the alleys or glades, eh? So we head back to Mao and relay the account, and she will not stand for Eorzea's situation. That man, the one who calls himself the king of the curl claws, King Poach, growing fat on stolen game, stolen family. The men of the Keepers of the Moon live a wanderer's life, for they at their very best in small doses. Women and children keep the hearth, ply various trades, and accept game and visits from the menfolk. But King Poach denies women this God's given rule over matters of family. He forces women to live with him, forbids them to see their sisters, mothers, aunts. Most unnaturally, they lie with him and him alone. So we help Mao to meet up with Eorzea directly, and Mao pleads with her sister to run away with her, to start a new life free from all these entanglements. She eventually agrees, and they plan to flee to Thanalan. But they are stopped by a whaler at the exit from South Shroud. And the whaler gets real creepy. He calls out Eorzea for being a curl claw, and he's all, you're lucky I'm the one who caught you. Some of those other whalers, well, a pretty thing like you. But then King Poach shows up and kills the whaler. And he tells Eorzea that she is his and his alone. And she agrees. The situation with the whaler has confronted her with her powerlessness outside the gang, and she would rather go back to that life than be vulnerable again. So they leave together and were left alone with Mao. She can't stand how things ended, but she understands why Eorzea did it. I cannot judge her. That look in her eyes when the whaler mocked her. All those women in the Curl Claw gang. The king's harem, do they all seek shelter from worse things? A roof of bones, walls of blood. Ma used to say we can't see the moon while the sun is in the sky. So it might be with King Poach, I think. If he were taken, Eorzea will see that there are other lives, better loves. I must believe that, if I'm to save my sister. And I need skill in arms. Whaler or poacher, I'll not stand helpless again while a man talks of how I shall suffer for his pleasure. Keep killing poachers, adventurer. I will put the king of the Curl Claws in chains and free Eorzea from hers. I swear it on my mother's grave and on my sister's broken heart, and ask the elementals to bless this pledge. The end.
Yeah.
That-
This is like the only one where I'm like, I need a follow-up to this. But the writing on it was so, again, such a departure from everything else. It almost seems like these were each maybe done by a different person.
Yes, for sure.
At least, like, this person only did that one quest. It's really distinctive.
Yeah. And also, it really is a window into a more kind of mundane, realistic Eorzea than we get to experience.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
We see a very kind of rose-colored version of it, even though we get shit. The problem is, though, I guess, in terms of getting insight into the day-to-day lives, is that when we are shown a problem, we get to solve it through violence and or persistence, essentially.
Yeah.
But this, though, we're shown like a fucked up situation that we can't do anything about. Mm-hmm. It's like it's going to keep on going and we're going to move on from here and it will persist, which again is realistic, but is not what this game goes for in general.
Correct. Yeah, I don't want to belabor the point on that, but it felt kind of cultish. Except for the fact that she very briefly saw the light, and choosing between a life of unknown versus known, she went back to what was comfortable, despite it being totally fucking unhealthy for her. Or like a tale as old as time. This seemed the most adjacent to being an actual human on actual Earth and trying to make a go of it.
Yep.
Okay, my next one is Guildmaster, Prelate, and Plot. So, a letter from the Brass Blades arrives for the thaumaturge Guildmaster Kokobuki. The Brass Blades are concerned that the current prelate of the guild, Yayake, otherwise you may know her as the receptionist, has ties to the former guildmaster turned Noxious, Mumuepo, and his insurrectionist plot against the crown. So, 5 years prior, Mumuepo was found embezzling from the guild, and he was sent to the Blood Sands by the Sultana to fight as a Noxious until his debts were repaid. Yayake worked alongside Mumuepo and was a devoted disciple of his, hence the suspicion that she works for him now. So Kokobuki agrees that an investigation is in order and asks us to chat with Yayake and observe her behavior for any weirdness. So we walk up to the reception desk, and Yayake has just turned down the admission request of an applicant to the guild, and the man is really upset. But she's like, you know what? In my years of dealing with initiates, I've seen far too many of them lose themselves to the darkness, to the void. So now she screens each applicant more diligently and only allows those who show the appropriate aptitude. Does this mean that she has overreached, that her authority is overreached as the prelate? Who can say? No one's told her to stop, so she's not going to stop. She feels very strongly about what it is that she's doing. So we go back to Kokobuki with our observations. Everything seems on the up and up so far, and he admits that enrollment numbers have decreased significantly. However, the quality of the initiates are so much better. Every new recruit has shown tremendous skill, but still, one must think, has she been slowly diminishing the ranks as part of Mumuepo's nefarious plot to slowly destroy the guild? Maybe. More investigation is required. So he asks that we ask a few more people around the ossuary about Yayake. So we speak to a few people, and it's clear, it's generally agreed and was generally observed that her devotion to Mumuepo and appreciation for his genius, it's common knowledge. Mumuepo had an uncanny ability to glean convoluted and esoteric knowledge from any tome, and through this skill he was able to revive long-forgotten magics. Yayake herself is bona fide bookworm, and she's always seeking to deepen her knowledge of thaumaturgy, and Mumuepo was always kind of like a complicated character, and he was eyed with suspicion by more than a few people, but not Yayake. She looked past his problematicness and saw only really his genius. Then we go talk to a dude outside the ossuary, and he's extremely nervous for some reason. Well, he thinks we're there to collect the dead, but we're not. He admits to seeing Yayake carrying a bunch of books through the rear entrance of the Colosseum, as if she's going to hang out with the Noxiai, of whom Mumuepo is one. Suspicious. So we go back to Kokobuki, and he thinks, well, if we figure out which books she took, maybe that will give us a clue as to what she's doing with them. And so we go around, we note which books are missing, we give him the list, and he's like, aha. The missing volumes are indeed favorites of the former guildmaster, and it seems Yayake is, at the very least, in communication with Mumuepo. So, while Mumuepo was guildmaster, he depleted the guild's accounts by buying superfluous copies of books they already had, but versions that were lavishly decorated in gilt and gem-encrusted and blah, blah, blah. And eventually he had a whole study that was full of this shit. However, the books that Yayake had allegedly been taking to Mumuepo are totally plain, meaning that he is wanting these books because he's interested in the contents. So what sort of fucking dark magic is he pulling out of these books? So, okay, it's time for Yayake to talk. Kokobuki concocts a very simple ambush, right? We're going to wait at the rear entrance of the Colosseum for her to, do her routine and going back there, and then we're going to, pincer maneuver her into confessing. So she does. She walks up to the door, and we're like, boom! Busted! And Kokobuki, so she sees us, and she's like, broop, turns right around and starts walking away, and Kokobuki slides out, and he's like, nope. And she's like, fuck. And he confronts her. Like, we know what you're doing. And she says, you know what? Treason? No. Trying to reach Mumuepo? Yes. I've wanted to talk to him this whole time, but he is not interested in talking to me or anything. And I thought if I took some of his favorite books to him, it would help rekindle his passion for his studies. And, she considered it her duty to do this for him. She saw her master lose himself to the pursuit of gold and riches, and she felt that she failed to rescue him before he was completely consumed. So when screening initiates, she looks for those propensities so that she can prevent other people from falling victim to the same bullshit. And Kokobuki is like, you know what? That's interesting. The ability to discern someone's nature just at a glance. What an incredible thing for a thaumaturge's arsenal. So he allows Yayake to continue to pursue this and maybe systemize it and codify it, but in so doing, this would be her atonement for sneaking around and doing this weird shit. And she's really excited. She wants to be a service to the guild. She wants to deepen her knowledge and do this so that this is perfect. So Kokobuki's like, great, perfect. I'm going to tell the brass blades that you are above reproach and their suspicions are unfounded, and we are good to go. And that's the end of the story.
Congrats, Chin.
Yeah.
I do want to clarify that Mumuepo, the former guildmaster, he was deposed because he was part of the essentially attempted overthrow of the Sultana, which happened before the events of A Realm Reborn, a pivotal moment where she kind of stopped being a puppet and started to kind of stand up for herself. We saw where that went, unfortunately, but still.
Right.
It was her first moment being a leader versus just a tool.
Nice.
Anyway, that's why he's in jail.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jen, we are on now to the secret backstory of Wymond.
Oh, that was my last one.
Look at that. We're finally overlapping, Jen. So this is the shades-wearing information broker that loiters in the Ul'dah Aetheryte Plaza. We get roped in by accident because we have a mostly illegible letter. It is addressed to a something Mond, and the Postmoogle assumes it's for Wymond.
Sure.
We drop it off, and it turns out that we were mistaken. It's a ransom note addressed to a Raymond.
That's embarrassing.
Raymond, we have your daughter. Demands behind shack at Copperbell. Obey, or she dies. Stop.
Oh.
Signed, the Purple Haze.
So this is where Wymond is like, okay, back in the day, I too was a Purple Haze. Not a member, just a Purple Haze.
Sure.
You know, he did a lot of bad stuff, and he is not proud of his past. However, while he was a member of the Purple Haze, he remembers a woman who stood in the spot that he stands today, and her name was Mirtha, and she sold flowers. And every day, I don't know if it was every day or every week or whatever, but he very regularly would buy...
Every day he bought a flower.
He bought a flower from Mirtha. And every day, she would give him the flower and say, "Thank you kindly, Mr. Wymond." They insinuate, they spelled it with a U instead of an O, and they insinuate that she never got his name right, but
Jen,
the pronunciation here is so
I
similar.
think that we are being some real Mirthas also by calling him Wymond. It's clearly from context clues.
Wymond instead of Wymond.
We're calling him Wymond, which is the incorrect pronunciation.
Apparently.
As implied by this text-only thing.
Correct.
Wymond is spelled, of course, W-Y-M-O-N-D. The way that this woman called him is W-Y-M-U-N-D.
Totally fucking different.
Exactly.
How embarrassing for her.
Wymond.
She never got his name right, and he thought it was very charming. And he remembers her so vividly because his life at that time was just, it was full of crime and violence and darkness. And she was like the one bright spot in his world. And it's not like he was like obsessed with her or anything, but through her, he was reminded that things are still like sweet and nice somewhere out there.
Until things went bad. So his gang, the Purple Haze, they did a hit on this informant. And it turns out that said informant was Mirtha's brother. And after that day, she never appeared again in the flower-selling spot.
Yeah.
So realizing the consequences of his actions, Wymond then sang like a canary to the most famous detective he could find, Hildebrand. But Hildebrand confused Wymond with the dead information seller and went around telling all of Ul'dah that Wymond was a righteous monger of information.
Yes.
Thanks to his intervention, the Purple Haze was all put behind bars, and Wymond had an unearned reputation as an information gatherer, so he just rolled with it.
Yeah.
And that's how he got where he is today, because Hildebrand got confused. And Wymond said, sure, I'll now be like the info master. Why not?
Yeah.
Come to think of it, though, where in the hells are Hildy and Nashu?
I mean, there's no doubt that at this point they've heard whispers of some nefarious kidnapping plot, and they should be like all over this right now. Which is, so while Wymond is telling the story of his past or whatever, Nashu and Hildebrand are like posing in the background. And as soon as Wymond turns around and goes like, where are they? They've already run into a street or an alley or something, and he misses them completely. But you get a little cameo.
The Purple Haze done fucked up by roping him back into their schemes.
They done fucked up. They done goofed.
And of course, we're getting involved too, by association.
Oh, we're totally getting involved. This is fascinating.
He goes off to tell the family of what's going on, and we go and pick up the ransom note. It seems like the kidnappers want the deed to Raymond's land, which is apparently rich in ceruleum. So now we launch into an overly convoluted scheme to discern the identity of the Purple Haze's employer. To do so, we pose as an agent for a wealthy ceruleum buyer, while Wymond engages in some market manipulation, which is highly illegal by present-day standards and probably illegal in Ul'dah as well.
Well, you gotta fight fire with fire.
Apparently. I think he goes overboard, but regardless.
Yes, he does. I have a huge problem with that one part. But
After this way too overwrought scheme, we end up with a ceruleum futures contract, and Wymond has grossly inflated the price of ceruleum with his rumor mongering. Having done so, we use our ill-gained wealth to act like we want to buy the land that is being ransomed from a Purple Haze gang member. So we meet this guy in the Coffer and Coffin. He is extremely drunk and unsophisticated. We could probably just have lied to him without all the preamble and gotten away with it because he is not discerning whatsoever. We're like, here, we have this very legitimate contract to like get all this ceruleum at this high price. So we got tons of money. See right here in our hands. And he's like slurring on the table or whatever.
Yeah, looks pretty good.
He's like, well, I just so happen to be coming into some land that is rich in ceruleum.
You don't say.
He's assuming right now, of course, that the deal is going to go through.
Sure.
He's going to get the ransomed land. He's going to count his chickens before they hatch. Wymond assumes that this guy's employer, the true mastermind behind this ransom scheme, is going to appear in person to keep him from running away with the deal, from doing a side deal with us.
Right.
He's going to clamp down the screws.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. The metaphor goes. Clamp
down the screws.
Hammer those screws real tight with a clamp.
We have a screw. Yeah, you clamp them.
Yeah, agree.
My God.
So now we stalk them to Cutter's Cry. And during all this thing, Wymond is just going crazy with like the behind the scenes information gathering. I feel like he could have just done it himself without us because he's like, okay, now they're going to go to Cutter's Cry and do this deal here. And the employer is going to show up there. And we're like, sure, whatever.
We'll go.
We'll go.
I mean, we're here to watch now.
Yeah.
Though, to be fair, if Wymond were to go around town doing all of these machinations or whatever, the futures buying and whatnot, everybody knows Wymond. So if we're doing it in his stead, we could say like my employer, and we could, kind of. I mean,
he's got access to such info on this group that I don't think he needs to do this trap to lure them in. He clearly knows their moves already because he's like, they're going to be here now and doing this thing here now.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Whatever. Anyway, this whole thing is Wymond kind of.
He's exercising some demons here. He's working through. There's something very cathartic happening. So we go out to Cutter's Cry, and this is where, like, the exchange is supposed to happen, where, like, the deed is given or whatever.
But he's given them fake. He's made a fake deed.
He made a fake deed
to give to them.
Yeah, so we can get the daughter back.
Now they look at the fake deed together. We have, like, the gang member, and we have the mysterious merchant here. He's gotten them this fake deed, and they look at it together, and then they're like, okay, kidnapped daughter, you can go free now. And she runs off into the desert.
Yay!
But she sees us behind a nearby cactus, and she's like, oh, hey, here's some guys that are safe, obviously. So she goes and hides with us.
Yeah.
And now Wymond's explaining to us his master scheme, where he cashed out our illegally gained ceruleum futures.
He made the fortune of 20 lifetimes by doing this. And instead of taking
Jen, what's that number?
Fraction of that.
What is the number?
This man walked away from this whole deal with 100 million gil.
And he has spent all of it.
All 100 million gil on explosives for these two dudes.
And he has seeded the area with these explosives. So when the mastermind, the employer's trying to get the employee, the Purple Haze gang member, to commit to the original deal.
It's like a pinky. It's a pinky promise. When their pinky promise is basically lighting up a doobie.
They're going to fulfill their namesake by smoking some somnus and making some purple haze from it. But the flame from this pipe
lighting up the thing
is going to set off all of these 100 million gil worth of explosives that Wymond has just spread around the area, apparently. And he blows the entire place up.
This would destroy the entire city of Ul'dah.
Yes.
The entire goddamn city. 100 million gil in explosives. That's so annoying. That's the worst part of this whole thing. It's so stupid.
So we see the child back safely to her parents, and then this is us being the messenger, of course. That's our shtick right now. So the mother gives us a letter and a flower for Wymond, And we bring it back, and the letter says, "Thank you, Mr. Wymund. You're Mirtha." And of course, the flower is the flower from the olden days.
So she's alive.
She's alive.
She's married to Raymond.
She's married a rich landowner.
She's doing great. She remembers him.
And her daughter's not dead.
She survived.
So yeah,
Lovely.
It's come full circle.
And now we know a little bit more about Mr. Wymund.
We do. This was hilarious. I got super bored midway through because we're like at 5 quest steps of doing financial shenanigans, but then it comes back around for all this shit being to blow up like all of Cutter's Cry pretty much.
And also they were just going to let this young girl run back home through this giant ant hellhole.
Yes.
I'm sure she would have been fine.
Absolutely absurd.
Absurd.
The entire thing is ridiculous, but it's a fun time.
But I do love at the end that it was like Mirtha the whole time, and we got a little Hildy action in there.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
This feels like the kind of story that would emerge from like a tabletop RPG session where the GM's sitting there,
oh my
just
God,
fucking fight the guys, and the players are in this huge side track trying to buy up all these explosives just to kill like 2 guys.
Yes. Absolute insanity. And we're all pooling every last amount of money that we have. It's delightful.
Anyway, Jen, the final story, because we double dipped there, this is the end of the quest line.
I didn't take any notes on this.
Grets.
Yeah, so I'm like, I got my 5. I'm fucking done.
Apparently. For the final time, we report to the Postmoogle, and he reports that his 2 new trainee Moogles are ready for their first delivery. But would we please go and keep an eye on them? But first, we have to deliver this lengthy training manual to Raya Osena for use by all future Postmoogles. So we head on over to South Shroud, and she's there wondering where this guy is. He was here to give them like a couple remarks of advice, but we plop down this giant tome of detailed do's and don'ts of post-Moogleism.
Right.
She sends us on to check on the trainee Moogles. We find the first one near Quarry Mill. This guy has a delivery for Buscaron. Now, Jen, I think that these guys are like a smaller model than the normal Moogles? ? To Jen.
Oh, God.
This poor Moogle is struggling with his giant pouch full of letters, and we need to rally and cheer him, etc.
You could do it!
To get him to make the trip to Buscaron.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Jen, we finally get the answer to the Moogle mystery. During A Realm Reborn, Jen, we have had tons of information about ways Moogles can and can't be seen.
Yeah, it's like asparagus. You either have the gene that can smell asparagus pea, or you don't.
Oh, I see.
You either have the gene to see a Moogle, or you don't.
Anyway, so I think, though, Jen, we have our answer. Because it's not that you can't not see them, it's just they try not to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
The Postmoogle trainee tells us that their job is to slip in quickly and drop off the letter.
Without being seen.
So
you just have like a floating letter in front of your face all of a sudden.
Well, probably on the counter, I'm assuming. But
yeah,
either way,
boop.
I think, Jen, what has happened here is that Moogles are sneaky, stealthy guys. And this mythology has been built up around them because people just don't think they're visible.
Right.
But in fact, they only reveal themselves to those they choose to appear to. Sure. Like they walk out from their bushes. It's not like they are invisible otherwise.
Right.
That is my final conclusion.
I agree with that.
Barring any future evidence, but I think we found it, Jen.
Cool.
We solved it.
Amazing.
The mystery that's been plaguing us from the very first Gridani episode brought full circle on our final Realm Reborn episode.
Busted.
Fucking busted Moogles. Speaking of busted, this Moogle tries to slip on in there, but he fucks it up, and Buscaron sees him.
It's like, holy shit, a Moogle!
He says, bloody hells, if it isn't a Moogle in the flesh. Talk about something you don't see every day. The pusillanimous Postmoogle says, oh no, Kupo. In my eagerness, I've gone and blown my cover. The deputy Postmoogle will never let me hear the end of it. So now Buscaron's like, I see. So that's why letters appear out of nowhere, because you try to be unseen.
That's why.
Sounds like a right thankless job, but you have my gratitude today. And the Postmoogle replies, did you hear that? Mr. Buscaron gave me his gratitude. Why, this might just be the happiest day of my life.
Aww.
Anyway, though, while we're here, Buscaron received a piece of wrongly addressed mail. This here is meant for Bateron.
Sure. You know, goateed dude who owns a bar.
And
ends with Ron.
And our trainee throws his brother under the bus. He's like, that must have been my brother trainee who fucked up, not me.
Correct.
We now go and check in on that brother. We find them in the airship landing in Gridania. The brother does not appreciate our lack of confidence, but he allows us to tag along regardless. So we hop over to Limsa and we regroup outside the drowning winch. Our confident Moogle carrier is now hesitating, not because he's scared of pirates, mind you. Just watch me sneak this letter over to Bateron. And bugger me with a broadsword. Which one of you sniveling sops set your wind-up Moogle loose in my establishment? The Moogle clarifies he is a flesh and blood Moogle.
How dare you?
And he was only seen by Bateron because he chose to be seen as a way of introducing himself as the new mail carrier.
Correct. Totally on purpose. I chose to do this.
With our tasks accomplished, we return now to Raya Osena along with the two trainees and the Postmoogle.
The deputy Postmoogle.
Correct. The OG Postmoogle.
OG, yes.
From back in the day. From rank 1. This job is now the new hotness amongst Moogle kind. They've all heard of our exploits and they want in on this sweet delivery action.
Hell yeah.
So with this new blood, the deputy Postmoogle could retire early. But no, he says, perish the thought. He begs to not be put out to pasture. He may not be healed yet, but he wants his job back when he is. And Raya can't say no to this enthusiasm. Just take it easy till then, she says. As for us, all of these new Moogles mean that we don't have to fill in any longer. As recognition for our hard work, the Postmoogle names us a full-fledged letter carrier.
Yay!
And we get our very own Postmoogle cap.
Hell yeah!
And that's the end.
We did it!
Congrats, Jen.
Congratulations, you. You haven't done it either. So that's it then.
That's it. That is it for the Postmoogle, and that is it for our A Realm Reborn coverage.
I don't know, insert some sort of like Vuvuzela or like air horn or...
Wham, 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 wham. Jen's lost it.
Bwah, 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 bwah. Fucking uncanny.
Thanks, Jen.
I can't tell the difference.
I know.
Bwah, bwah, bwah.
Well, Jen is out of commission.
Oh my god.
It is late. We've gone for a long time.
Fucking punch drunk.
Yeah. So next time we are having our farewell episode to A Realm Reborn. We are just going to be talking about the good times, the bad times. We'll be reading a couple bits of feedback we got from our listeners, and we'll be preparing to make our way to Heavensward.
I don't have anything more to say about it. I'm just ready to go.
Well, we're doing it, Jen.
I got my coat on.
You have your poncho on.
Poncho on.
All right. Well, Jen, please say some things about taking us out, and we will see you next time.
It's fucking my line, dude. And that will do it for today's episode. Thank you all so much for listening. And thank you for sending letters to Bateron and not Buscaron. If you want to get in touch with us, you can at podreturnffxiv at gmail.com. Check the show notes for the Discord. You can join us. That's how you get included in our group runs, our group content. But you can also just share some pictures of your pets and your glams and talk about whatever you want. It's a really amazing group of people, and we would love to have you. And we also are on Blue Sky, bluesky.com/podreturnffxiv. And last but not least, our Patreon, patreon.com/you guessed it, podreturnffxiv. And for $1 a month, you get access to everything else that we do, including the seasonal events in 14 and our Final Fantasy XI series, Vana'diel Vansplainer. So give it a listen. And with that, we hope you enjoyed the episode. Have a good day or night, and we will see you next time.